Good morning. It is November 3rd, Friday, rolling in hot. We're kind of gearing up for next week, Kyle and I's first visit to Used Car Week. So we're going to have Steve Greenfield on the show today to talk about it, because he is a Used Car Week veteran.
Professional. This is just a completely selfish, like, what are we getting ourselves into?
Yeah, right. We're like, let's try not to. How do we not embarrass ourselves? Actually, I don't know if anyone could advise us well on that, because it's bound to happen. We're going to embarrass ourselves at some point. But Used Car Week is an event that we've been hearing about. And every year we're like, hey, we have to go to Used Car Week next year. And this is the year it finally happened. Basically, we said that last year about SEMA too, and we didn't make it this year.
And we still got time for CES potentially. So
that's true.
Yeah.
When is that?
Or wait, no. Wait, did we just miss CES or SEMA? Now I'm getting them all.
No, we met SEMA's going on right now. We're missing SEMA.
Yeah,
it's over.
CES is in January, so we got options. We got options. Man, we got options.
I don't know. But either way, we're getting ready to be wheels up next week. But we have Steve Greenfield on the show. Nathan, bring Steve in. I don't know where he's going to be.
There he is.
We're in the world of Steve Greenfield.
Steve, I saw him down there. He was in the green room side. He was like, these guys, they don't even know what's going on.
I'm reconsidering.
He's
my
like,
decision.
if they read my weekly email, I tell you what.
We do actually.
Yeah.
We do.
Well, I'm in a rental car, in a Hertz rental car at Midway Airport, in the parking garage. Here I am.
In Midway.
You
have really good.
Start with that, because you're all over the country. Sometimes in a rental car, sometimes in an Uber. Like, what's the anecdotal evidence on the rental industry right now?
Especially in Chicago.
Yeah, lots of EVs. Although I don't know if you saw the news earlier this week, Hertz has said that they're going to not the commitment of 100,000 Teslas. They're going to pull back on that now. One, because prices are so volatile. I mean, they're sitting with a lot of cars that are worth a lot less because of these price discounts.
Sure.
But also just repair costs, apparently. So when they do have repairs, it takes a long time to get Tesla repairs.
Because initially, when I remember the story like 6 months ago, Kyle and I were talking about it, they were like, hey, our maintenance costs are way down because of the EVs. This is going to be great. Stock goes up, right? But now it's like, oh, but if there's a repair, kind of flips.
Yes.
Because we were trying to figure that out. We're like, wait, didn't they just say that it was cheaper? But, repairs, I guess.
That's the thing. I mean, yeah. Regular maintenance. What do you have to do? You change tires once in a while. There's no oil changes or anything.
Wiper blades.
But yeah, I mean, if you do get in a bumper crash or something, these things take a long time apparently to fix.
Yep. Well, there you go. Well, they know they have one renter. They have one renter in you. Steve, you are definitely a Used Car Week veteran. Why do you like the event? Like, what's the unique proposition of Used Car Week versus some of the other events out there?
So you have to go back in history, actually, because, I spent 10 years in Mannheim. So I was in the remarketing world very, very deep. And we used to have like 2 weeks in a row where we were basically parked in Las Vegas with 3 different conferences. So the history is Used Car Week is actually an amalgamation of like 3 conferences that converged like a decade ago or something.
No way.
So instead of being in Vegas now 2 weeks in a row, you're actually, very efficiently in and out in like 3 days.
In Phoenix.
Okay, so what were the original? What were the original 2 or 3 things that were happening?
Now you're gonna make me remember this. Yeah. Well, one was remarketing. One was like a finance-related conference, and I think one might have been like a repossession. Someone's gonna call me out on this for sure.
Inflatable gorilla suit maintenance.
Exactly.
Conference.
But they were all roughly like used car related, but they realized they were greatly inconveniencing all these people and stretching the audience over 2 weeks. So I think it's worked well. You'll find when you guys are there, next week, there's a lot of people that show up for this conference.
Yeah, right. No, I think like looking at the attendee list, which is something that they post, which is a little bit different than a lot of other conferences. Sure. Like, yes, you see some dealers, but there's actually a high level of interest across like financing and remarketing and used car operators that are more like national level used car operators or shippers or things like that. It's like a much more broad industry partner look. Most of these events outside of maybe NADA, you really are narrow in the type of industry partners, but this is way more broad. And I'm guessing that's because of the content.
And it's awesome, dude. I can tell you this, like, as you get closer to transportation conferences, And then at the far end repo conferences, the number of piercings and tattoos per square inch of body goes up great. So, I mean, depending on which room you're in there and who you're meeting with, I mean, there's some wild and crazy characters at these.
You know what I hear? I hear a ASOTU audience expansion is what I hear.
There you go.
They're gonna fit right in. Right. We're actually going to be at a conference with flat bills where everybody's going to be like, that's normal.
Right.
No, they're not even going to think about it. We're like, dude, we need some tattoos quick.
Right? You guys will need tattoos to fit in here. Yes, exactly.
Easy. So we're going into the week. What are the 1-2 topics that you think are going to be top of mind or the top of the conversation? What are we going to walk away from, hearing throughout the halls?
Well, I think, I mean, it's it's almost passé now, but EVs are a big thing. And in this world that you guys are going into next week, it's more about these residual values, right? So Hertz is a good example, but there's a lot of fleets out there that have EVs, and with all the price cuts that Tesla's done, it's really disrupted. I mean, if you're sitting on 100,000 EVs right now, and prices drop by $5,000 or $10,000 retail.
Oh man!
I mean, no, it's a real problem. And then the flip side of that is like if you're like basically originating vehicles into a fleet, and you're trying to forecast what an EV is going to be worth in 3 years. Well, good luck right now. Yeah. Because of the volatility, and without have some certainty around what that residual value is going to be in 3 years. I mean, you can't. So a lot of these guys are like, we don't want to put EVs into fleet. You're hearing a lot of dealers in the used car departments won't even take EVs on trade-in because they don't want to take the risk. Well, one is, how do you price them? And then the flip side,
how do you appraise it? And then you hold it for 15 days. All of a sudden, the price changed $7,000, and now you're holding the bag. Yeah,
this is a big issue, a big issue, and you need a really stable and healthy ecosystem of used vehicles in order for like new cars, either into fleets like Hertz, or even for a consumer to say, look, I don't want to buy a Tesla right now because it could be worth a lot less tomorrow, the day after I buy it. So that's a big challenge right now. And like all the stuff we talked about, repair as well, handling these things and, getting them charged is definitely a challenge. But I think the biggest thing could be just like residual values, used car prices on EVs.
Okay. So EVs, definitely maybe it seems passé, but look, everyone's talking about it. What's another topic?
I think the other thing is like, look, a lot of the auction participants are going to be here, right? All the big auctions, all the online only auctions, and they're sweating a little bit because we had these 3 years where there was a depression in new car sales, and 2 or 3 years down the road, all those new cars become used cars. And so if I'm a dealer, if I'm a very big retailer, if I'm a Carvana or CarMax, I'm sitting here saying, my forecasting models mean that a couple of years from now, there's going to be a shortage of good, low mile, good quality, lightly used vehicles. And the auctions aren't going to have the volume to sell. So we're going to see this interesting dynamic. Again, back to residual values. How do you forecast what a used vehicle is going to be worth when we know there's going to be a shortage? There's going to be more demand than supply, which will support used car prices. But if you look at, Manheim Used Vehicle Value Index, which gives you an idea of like what used values are selling for, used cars are selling for, it's been very, very high. How long is that going to last, and how volatile is that going to be? So,
because we haven't even seen, we've been, the used car market has been high because there's not new car inventory, but we still have yet to see the part of the play where the used car value remains high because there's no used cars in inventory.
Right.
And then as it swings, right, new car glut after that, and then it goes round and round.
It's this massive, it's a massive thing. And I didn't even think about the impact of the auctions, like the impacts of just their revenue, because less going through it. And then these large retailers rely on the auction still. Like we hear a lot of dealers saying, I want to get out of auction. I want to go, direct to consumer. And it's a lot different proposition buying 50, 60 used cars off the street than it is hundreds of thousands of used cars to go across the country.
And then we get a topic 3. So to get ahead of Paul's question. So topic three is related to that. So think about this. So yes, the CarMax, for example, wants to be independent of auctions and be able to get all their cars through trades.
Right.
Well, or buying cars off the street. But what we know just happened is everyone who bought a car for the last 3 years paid more than MSRP. And when those consumers come back in to trade in their car, they're going to be shocked. They'll be like, what do you mean? It's now worth like 15 grand less than I thought it was worth. Because we're going to get back to regular depreciation of these cars. These cars are going to be so far underwater, meaning that consumers are going to owe so much more than the car's actually worth, that there's no way you can like roll all that negative equity into a vehicle purchase.
Right. No one's
so
buying
they're going to
that.
be stuck. They're going to be stuck. They'll be like, I'm going to have to own this car a lot longer and just burn off all that negative equity by just holding on to it, which means I think we're going to see many fewer in an environment where dealers are going to be craving these like 3-year-old vehicles. Consumers just aren't going to be able to bring them back into the market because there's going to be so much negative equity.
I had a situation.
Well, is that like the devil's advocate on that, and I haven't seen the reports on like the water to loan, right? Like how much water is in consumer loans right now? That's a big question that I have, because you still saw, 50 to 60% of new retails getting trade-ins. And so those trade-ins would have been high in that timeline too. Like, are we actually going to experience the high water on loans where consumers aren't going to get out of them, or is the gap much closer? I haven't seen any concrete evidence to that, and maybe you have. That's why I'm asking the question.
I haven't, but you guys are going to be like the feet on the street next week. I would try to like burrow into that question. If you can find some people to comment on that, that's a big potential problem in the industry, and it needs to get exposed one way or the other.
I have anecdotally, I had an executive from New York City called me. We were actually filming the 4th episode of More Than Cars. We were at Mohawk Chevrolet, and I got a phone call, and he was saying, hey, because all of a sudden I'm his car guy. I know about cars, right? So he's like, here's what I have. I want to get into a Bronco. I was like, perfect timing. I'm at a dealership. Let me see what your car's worth. And he was in an Equinox. So went back and forth, found out what he owed on it. And he had the means, right? But still, he was probably $5 grand backwards. He owned the car for 2 years. And even he was like, nah, I think I'll just stay in it for now.
Wow.
Right. And that was somebody who had the means to do it.
Just sideline him immediately.
No, he was out of the conversation as soon as he found the value. And I explained why it was like that, because he was also confused. Right. Oh, I know things were high, but I don't think people realize what that actually means. Is that, things were high. You paid this and the residual values changed. It's a major difference. Well, we're talking about like a 28 or a $30,000 Equinox, and he was $5,000 apart from where he thought he was.
Yeah. And when you see these studies that show like, half of Americans have less than $500 cash in the bank account, they just have no means to like buy their way out of the hole.
Yeah. And there, we didn't cover the story, but there's definitely like the savings. The headline was something like, all of that savings we gathered during the pandemic is now gone. Basically,
they burned it off.
Headline.
They burned it off. Yeah.
There's no longer bought all our NFTs.
Keep spending. Yeah. Credit card rates are going up, and we're just like the U.S. consumer is continuing to spend.
It is the thing.
Hey, real quick before we go, give us a little insight into what NAVIcon looks like, because you got a whole day where you kind of are moderating a little portion of this event. Like what can people look forward to through the day that day?
Besides Kyle trying to make them cry.
Right. That little portion too.
We're going to get Kyle up on stage as a judge, Shark Tank style. So that'll be pretty awesome. So Thursday all day, you'll see me up on stage. I've got the CEO of Car Gurus kicking us off, Jason Trevison, followed by then car dealership guy. Although, I've tried to convince him to get up on stage with some kind of like mask on, but he's going to be zooming in. But we're going to take open questions from the audience. So if you've been wanting to ask car dealership guy questions, we will be taking questions live, putting on the spot to ask question, which is super cool. And then, we've got a few of our portfolio companies up on stage getting interviewed by Chase Frazier at Frazier McCombs Capital. And he's interviewing them. And then we're going to get Kyle up on stage and put him in a seat and have 5-minute pitches. He's used to this. He's been through this a few times before. And Kyle can pepper them with questions and then ultimately score these guys at the end. And they'll take away the NAVIcon Cup. And we'll award that right after lunch.
Which is so cool. Who makes the NAVIcon Cup every year?
There's a guy up in Detroit. who welds these things for me.
Perfect.
And we've gotten him a lot of business. So you got to see this. Hopefully we can, put that image up on the screen here for everyone to see. But yeah, I mean, you got to see this guy. He's truly talented. He's a welder. He does the work himself. And as a result, we've got him a lot of extra work. But I can definitely, if anybody wants, you can message me. Happy to put in contact with this guy. Great guy. And he does great work.
It's a work of art. Every year I'm like, who makes these things? And now we know.
We know. Awesome.
All right. Well, there you go. There's an episode for your Friday. Thank you, Steve, so much for joining us. We can't wait to hang out with you next week and cause a little trouble. Maybe in the meantime, we'll get some earrings, some tattoos, and try to hang out with the repo guys. Talk to you next week.
Looking forward to it, guys. See you there.